What's going on, everybody? This is your boy, the Sports Dr. Spock, Mickey Coleman, coming at you with another video. Right now, we're going to get into the man who gave Iceberg Slim the game. Old time Chicago hustler, also did some business here in Detroit and all over the world. We're going to talk about Albert Baby Bell. Now, some of this stuff is I'm going to learn for the first time too, because I really don't know much about Albert Baby Bell, but we're going to get into this video right now.
In the world of urban crime lore, some names echo a little more quietly, but just as chillingly. Today, we're diving into the story of Albert Baby Bell, a figure whose name might not be as famous as Capone's, but whose legacy in Midwest organized crime is just as intriguing. The name Albert Baby Bell does not thunder through the annals of American crime. It lacks the explosive notoriety of Al Capone or the cold corporate menace of Meyer Lansky.
Right, because Albert Baby Bell pretty much knew how to keep shit quiet. You know, Al Capone wanted to be a movie star. Baby Bell was a gangster. And that's all he was trying to be.
His name is a whisper, a footnote in police blotters and the fading memories of old men. Yet, to ignore figures like Bell is to see only the kings and miss the architecture of the kingdom. It is to misunderstand the quiet, steady hands that held the entire violent enterprise together. His story is a journey into the engine room of the underworld, a place where the grand strategies of bosses were translated into the stark reality of the street. This is an exploration of a man who was not a leader but a tool, and how that role, far from minor, was essential to the very structure of organized crime. In the grand narrative of the American mob, we are drawn to the spectacle. We remember the
This
car
was
bombs. We remember the courtroom dramas.
way
We
before
remember the
Frank.
figures who cast long, dark shadows over entire cities. But history is not only made by the men who give the orders. It is also shaped by the men who carry them out. Albert Bell was one of those men. He was an enforcer, a specialist in the application of fear and the maintenance of a brutal kind of order. That's the question we start with. Albert Bell was born into a world of brick dust, factory smoke. He came of age in a working-class enclave of a sprawling Midwestern city, a place where life was dictated by the punch clock and the weekly wage. The neighborhoods of his youth were tight-knit communities of immigrants, laborers, bound by shared hardship and a deep-seated suspicion of outsiders. Money was a constant worry. A lost job could mean hunger. A bout of sickness could spell disaster. The streets were his real school. It was there he learned the elemental lessons of survival. How to read a person's intentions in their eyes, how to stand your ground in a fight, and how
I don't
to
know what the
recognize an
London Guard got to
opportunity
do
when
with
it
Baby
appeared in the
Bell.
shadows. His nickname, Baby, was a product of this environment. Some said it was because of his youthful face. Others claimed it was his relatively slight build. Whatever its origin, the name stuck. Over time, it acquired a different meaning, an ironic label hinting at danger beneath an unassuming exterior. The cities he called home, some accounts place him in the orbit of Detroit's rackets, others in the grimy back alleys of Chicago's South Side, were crucibles of change. Industrial hubs swelled with workers. With this influx came friction, competition, and vice. Illegal
Right. So he also lived in Detroit. He made his mark in Chicago, which is why some people probably kind of compare him to Al Capone, because Al Capone made his bones in Chicago too. But he also ran some of the rackets here in Detroit.
gambling dens, after-hours drinking clubs,
Mhm.
loan sharking operations flourished in the spaces the legitimate economy left behind. These cities had two sets of rules, the ones written in law books and the ones enforced in back rooms with a nod and a fist. For a young man with few prospects, the underworld offered money, respect, and belonging. The city was a forge, and it was shaping him into a tool perfectly suited for the tasks that lay ahead. Well, that's where it started. Bell's entry into organized crime was not an audition. It was an apprenticeship. He did not burst onto the scene. He slipped into it, starting at the very bottom of the ladder where the work was menial and the risks were high. His first jobs were simple. He ran messages between bookies, stood as a lookout during an illegal card game, served as a bouncer at a speakeasy. He was a small cog in a large machine, given tasks that tested his nerve and reliability. The bosses, men who rose from similar beginnings, were always watching. They looked for boys who didn't talk too much, who didn't run when the police drove by, who did exactly as they were told. He proved himself quickly. When told to watch a door, he watched with unnerving stillness. When sent to deliver a package, he took the alleys, ensured
See, so whatever you decide to do in life, you might as well be the best of it. Now, he ended up being one of the world's most famous organized crime gangsters. And he started off as a doorman. He is a very good one. So you hustle for what you want to do, no matter if you start at the bottom or not. This is for anything you do. If you start at the bottom, be the best on on the floor, you mopping the floors you can be, and then you be on fries, and next thing you know, you on your own restaurant. Free game for your boy, the sports doctor Spot.
he was not followed, learned to be invisible when necessary, and imposing when required. A minor boss sent him to collect an overdue debt. Bell did not go in with threats. He stood inside the shop for an hour, saying nothing. His presence was a silent, looming promise. The money was paid the next day. This period shaped his methodology. He was not a natural brawler. He approached his work with the detached focus of a craftsman, studying experienced enforcers. He observed how they used psychological leverage, how they used physical leverage. He learned a whispered word could beat a broken nose. The bosses saw more than a thug. They saw a problem solver who could handle difficult situations without drawing attention. As responsibilities grew, protecting liquor shipments, ensuring peace at high-stakes games, persuading witnesses, his value increased. He was climbing, not by scheming, but by proving his worth as a loyal, effective instrument. The path led deeper into a world with seldom an easy exit. You know, that was his first real direction. To be an enforcer was to be the human face of a gangster's authority. Albert Bell did not devise schemes or manage financial ledgers. His domain was the messy, unpredictable world of human compliance.
Yep, so he really was pretty much a collector once he got deeper into it. Before he was the boss, or he collected for people. And then Albert Bell was an overall hustler. He was really big into pimping. Like Iceberg Slim, one of the world's best known pimps, like I said earlier, learned the game for Albert Baby Bell.
His role: ensure rules were followed, debts honored, and discipline maintained within the organization. This job existed beyond the law, where contracts were understood through a shared language of threat and consequence. Without the quiet menace of men like Bell, a boss's grand pronouncements were merely empty words. He was the guarantor of power. The craft was more nuanced than simple brutality. Violence was available, but often the last resort. A public display could attract police. Bell was a master of subtler coercion. He understood the power of presence. He could enter a room and change its temperature. He read people, their fear for family, pride in business, terror of humiliation, exploiting vulnerabilities with surgical precision while limiting collateral damage. When a bookie skimmed profits, Bell would arrive at the man's home just as
Mm.
dinner began. Polite, cordial, he wouldn't mention money at all. The visit itself was the message. The skimmed money
I can get
returned,
to you.
often with interest. When
I
rivals
know where you
encroached
stay
or underlings defied, action was
and when you're
required.
most vulnerable.
He was swift and decisive. The violence was never personal, it was business, a calculated signal, known not for temper or cruelty, but for cold, detached efficiency.
Mm.
His job: solve a problem, restore order, by quiet conversation or a back alley beating. This reliability, being whatever the situation demanded, made him invaluable. Uh, right. That was his craft. In the world of organized crime, a man's reputation was his most valuable currency. For Albert Baby Bell, it was built in hushed conversations, not headlines. Among bookies, loan sharks, foot soldiers, capos, he was known as steady, a man who did his job without complaint and without flair, the highest compliment. Bosses saw him as a tool, but a finely crafted one, the scalpel for precise, delicate operations. Trusted not to overstep, not to get greedy, not to draw federal heat. Trust was earned over
Look like
years of
some damn
consistent
food stamps.
performance. He never angled for a promotion or carved out his own slice.
A rival badmouthed his boss, pushing toward war. Bell was sent to talk, not attack. In a crowded restaurant, he sat and said, "We have a problem. You're it." He calmly laid out consequences. The man went pale and left the city next day.
He was feared not for brute strength, but because he embodied his boss's will. When Bell spoke, a powerful organization stood behind him. The message was always credible. The persona of Baby Bell was a study in contrasts. He projected unshakable calm. In chaos, a bar fight, a cardroom argument, his presence quelled disturbance. He spoke in a low, measured tone. The silence was a weapon,
Eating a
forcing
peanut butter
others to
sandwich.
reveal anxieties and intentions. But the calm concealed dispassionate force. When a warehouse was hijacked by a freelance crew, recovery was swift and violent. The crew was dismantled, left beaten as a warning. A nightclub owner laughed off his deadline. Bell returned at night, walked behind the bar, and systematically smashed every expensive bottle. The owner, unharmed, paid by morning. He toggled between psychological pressure and physical destruction. He adapted tactics to person and situation, a student of human nature. The calm was the threat of the storm, the proof. To grasp Bell, look beyond the man and see the machine. Mid-century syndicates were complex ecosystems, structured businesses with hierarchies, supply chains, profit motives. They thrived by providing what the public craved: illegal gambling, high-interest loans, after-hours entertainment,
Mhm.
requiring rigid internal order against police and rivals. Men like Bell were essential gears, ensuring power flowed from bosses to the street and cash flowed upward, from poker rooms and bookmakers to the men at the top. In powerful union cities, bosses skimmed pensions, controlled hiring halls, extorted with strike threats. Bell maintained discipline, reminding dissenters where loyalties lay. Enforcers were the immune system of the criminal body, purging disloyalty, repelling invaders, ensuring the whole served those in charge. While bosses lived well and dealt in quiet restaurants, men like Bell worked the front lines, risking arrest and violence. The anonymous foundation of a glittering, corrupt edifice. Mob stories favor kings. The cunning of Luciano, brutality of Capone, vision of Lansky. But below the throne, the view is less glamorous and more revealing. Comparing Bell to Capone clarifies roles. Capone was a CEO, politics, PR, citywide strategy,
Mm.
celebrity. Bell was a field manager, tactical concerns, the bartender stealing, the gambler who wouldn't pay. Capone played chess on Chicago. Bell played checkers on a single square and had to win every time. The criminal world runs on division of labor. Strategists need soldiers. Power requires translation to street reality. Bell made power tangible. Albert Baby. Bell's life faded from blotters and chatter. No cinematic final stand or high-profile trial. Some say he retired quietly. Others whisper of a violent end. The records are silent. His name, once feared, now an echo, a fragment. His story forces us beyond headlines and into the shadows. What is our responsibility to the quiet men of history? Is it enough to remember only the kings and master criminals?
Mm. And that was the story in a nutshell of Albert Baby Bell. Not in this story quite the kingpin, but he did end up working up to a kingpin and a higher level in the pimping game. Like I said, he trained a lot of other pimps, but he started out as just muscle and great muscle for a lot of different people in Chicago and in the Detroit area. And he was one of the best at it. And he managed to stay under the radar. Like they said, they don't know what happened to him. Some say he retired. Some people say he made a violent end. But he was the guy taking all the risks, and he didn't end up in jail. This is your boy, the Sports Dr. Spock. Let me know what y'all think of this video, and I am gone for now. Peace out.